Welcome to Stories with Kishen, ordinary people with extraordinary lives. As promised, I shared a little bit last week about a very special guest that I will be having today. I will be bringing to you, we will be blessed by the words, the poetry, the just talent of Deannia L. Friend. She wrote a book. She had a situation or situations that happened in her life. And so she wrote this book as a way of sharing her story. So the name of the book is called Molested. And without further ado, we are going to bring to the broadcast Deannia.
Hi.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us.
Me.
And for those of you who don't know, sometimes just behind the scenes, you just don't know what's going on. But we persevered, we pushed through that, and we are here.
We made it.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. And for those of you who don't know, Deannia and I have known each other
long.
I don't even know. Yeah. Because you were at Madison, right?
No.
You didn't go to Madison?
No, I went to Camp Hall. I went to Camp Hall, Shawnee, and of course, Creston.
Okay. I wonder then if you might be my brother's age. Then.
Possibly.
Because he went to Camp Hall for a little bit. But nonetheless, it don't even matter because we know that the history is beyond that situation. But I actually found out about your book when I interviewed Dukem for my podcast, when I was first starting with my podcast. And the title of his podcast was called Monsters of Molestation. And he shared how as a child he was molested. And of course, I had no idea. With that being my cousin, we had a very close relationship. And I'm like, how did this happen? And what I found with molestation is the majority of the victims are related or know the predator.
Very true.
And so we're going to talk a little bit about I call it therapeutic poetry. But let's get into how this all came about. And for those of you who are tuning in, when you tune in, this will be shared on YouTube, Stories with Kishen, as well as SoundCloud, Stories with Kishen, if you missed this broadcast. So when you just start getting connected with this, make sure that you share this with somebody, because we want to make sure that people know not only about molestation, but even if you've dealt with it and you've suppressed it, hopefully this is a way to get unstuck. But in addition to that, there's this amazing book of poetry. And we'll talk about the cover of it and everything, but let's talk about your journey. Because when you and I first talked, there was something that led you to go back as far as writing this. So this is like a book in the making of how many years?
Well, the first book that you held up, which is my first baby, I like to call it, Molested, I published that book and got that book out in 2015.
Okay.
I had been writing this first book and just writing in general for years, but I wanted to get this book out. I had been writing it for 10 plus years. And then my husband and we got pregnant, and I just refused to let those negative vibes or anything that wasn't positive just be spewed out into our daughter. So I just wanted to move faster and wrap it up. So we wrapped it up and we got the book out. I'm very thankful. I thought I was ready, um,
Mm.
because I had been writing for 10 years, like I said. But once I got out there and rehashing the story over and over and over, I wasn't ready. I wasn't
You know,
ready.
that's interesting because well, let's talk about the poetry, because poetry in and of itself, that's something that you were exposed to as a young child. So let's talk about that element first, how it even came about that you have a love for poetry.
My love for poetry did start, um, I'm going to say around sixth grade.
Okay.
Once I can never put an age to my molestation, but I know it was when I was younger. Like
Mm-hmm.
the cover of the book that you held up is a picture of a Raggedy Ann,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a little distorted because molestation is not pretty at all.
Right.
And I want to go back to Dukem. You mentioned Dukem. I love Dukem, his
Me
family,
too.
um, of course. And he and I have spent multiple hours talking about molestation, the devastation, and the trauma that it has on individuals. And I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate his story. I don't take any of those stories lightly.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm going to say that molestation birthed this author within me. It birthed poetry, something that I didn't even know. And it also got me acquainted to a lot of Black poets that just helped me along the way. James Baldwin, Nikki Giovani, of course, Sonia
Right.
Sanchez, Gwendolyn Brooks. The list is just on and on. Maya Angelou. So I've been writing since sixth grade, and many journals that I started and finished, and then after a while, I just wanted to accumulate the poetry and put it together for a book.
Okay. So you talk about in the sixth grade, that's when you learned about your love or your passion for it. And you said you can't really put a time frame on when the molestation started, but it was
Yeah.
prior to sixth grade.
Yes, it was.
Okay. So
It was.
let's talk about that, because you mentioned something that I think is key, is that when you and your husband got pregnant, you did not want to continue that cycle and continue
No.
that hurt. And I think, was there something that led you to start talking about it, or had you been talking about it? Was there counseling or anything involved in that? How did that come about?
Molestation is something that even when you're not trying to talk about it, you're talking about it.
Mm,
Because it's forever engraved in your psyche. You're angry, you're happy, you're loving, you're miserable, you're so many emotions, a range of emotions just are just embedded within you from molestation. So I just knew that I did not want to pass it on to my daughter. Now, this is no fight against her, but I never even wanted children.
mm,
Everybody who knows me knows that I never wanted children. But love is a hard thing. You fall in love, and then there it is. And he's been
right.
wanting a child since he was in the eighth grade.
Oh,
Um, so I just knew before that I was like, if ever I had a child, I would do my very best to make sure that she didn't have to go through this type of situation.
okay. So you wrote the book, or you were writing the book. Now, what took so long? You said it was a long process, because I've been writing the book for the past 18 years and it's not
Mhm.
finished yet. So I know
Yeah.
what some of my vices have been, or
Mhm.
some of my roadblocks have been. But what were some of yours?
I'm just gonna go ahead and say being a perfectionist, which is never good.
Mm,
Not wanting any errors to come out in the book, attached to something that I was putting out, and just going over the poems and just editing and rereading them, crying over them, being tormented by them.
mm,
It's just a long process. When the time is right, the time is just right
yeah.
for anything. So
Yeah.
it took so long for the book to come out because I just wasn't done with it. I didn't know when I wanted to be finished with it. I just continue adding books, continue to deplete journals, and writing is just something that I love to do. So that's
So
what it just took a while.
so when you wrote the book, and we talked a little bit about it, because I know when I talked with Dukem, his recollection of that trauma didn't come out because of molestation, but it came out because of a situation that happened that led him back to the trigger of that molestation. Now, in your situation, because he shared he had to go to counseling. He couldn't
Oh
figure
yeah.
out what was going on, why this was happening or that was happening,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever the situation was at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that something that you did? Did you make a decision? Okay, I need to get beyond this. So, did you seek counseling? Was that a part of your process for healing?
Counseling, I did do some counseling when I was still living at home and growing up with molestation as it was still being hidden. I did do some counseling, but it just, the fit never was accurate for me.
Okay.
Um, it wasn't until really, okay, let me back up some. Now, counseling and therapy is so wide for me because God. Now, there were plenty of times during this whole process of trauma and remembering that I was upset with God. I was mad at Him that He could
Mm-hmm.
even allow this to happen to me. So, uh, I'm a worshiper. I love God. Prayer warrior. I've got a list of people who I can call upon to help me pray if I need some added strength. But God helped me through a lot of this. I have to just say that.
Yeah.
Just dealing with it internally because when you need someone, sometimes no one is there to help you through the process of molestation. So you're alone a lot. You're thinking
Mm-hmm.
about it, trying to get over it, trying to make sense of it, trying to put words to it. And that's one reason why the pencil and paper have helped me through a lot of molestation. Now, granted, I am healed from it. I can talk to you about this. I haven't shed a tear yet, but there were times where I could not even. When I first got the book out, I remember going to oh, a professor's classroom. Oh my God, her name is missing. I get Dr. Burton, Myra Burton.
Mm-hmm.
She asked me to come to her class and speak to her group. Now, this was probably like the 10th or 12th session that I had when the book first came out. I
Mm-hmm.
got up there, first poem, snotting, crying. I could
Yeah.
not control myself because it's that real.
Yeah.
And, so right now, I'm just thankful that I am healed from molestation. My shirt says, I survived molestation, so can you. Um,
Mm.
I created this T-shirt years ago to help me through. That was another form of counseling. So counseling does help. I recommend it. Counseling helps, but you have to be ready to confront the hard part.
Mm. I think that's critical because people, I think, genuinely want to be healed, but that's like with anything. When it gets so difficult, it's like, okay, nope, nope, I can't go any further. But you have to push through that to
You
get
have
on
to.
the other side of that. And I think that's where people stay stuck because it becomes so painful and they think, okay, this is too painful, it's too uncomfortable, so I'm not going to finish through this.
Yes, because it's hard. Trauma
Yeah.
is hard. Trauma is real. Do you mind if I read a poem to you?
No, absolutely not.
Um, because I said I can never recall the age, and I have this conversation a lot. But I recall the events and
Mm-hmm.
the trauma. Now, this poem that I'm going to read to you right now is from my second book that I'm editing,
Oh.
that I'm currently editing. And Yeah. So the title of this is Milk Carton.
Mm.
Her face never appeared on the side, but she truly was missing. Missing. The moment he laid his hands on her in the unloving way he did. Once he was finished, he carried on with his day, and she wondered how to carry on with hers. Finally, she got up off the floor, leaving behind the silhouette of the little girl who was so excited to share the morning with her father. The little girl who laid down on the floor next to her father just to watch television. But a different little girl walked back to her room to cry for the little girl that was now missing. She will never be the same or return. Her face never appeared on the side, but she was truly missing.
Okay, I had chills.
So
Wow.
it's
I
the
get
trauma of
that.
molestation. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because
Mm.
when your brain, I call it brain interrupted, as you know, because I saw you through the window at Cornerstone University, teaching a class. You know, and I was a student at the time, and now I'm finished. Hallelujah.
Thank you, Lord.
Thank you. Yes, with a bachelor's of science in psychology. But
Hey.
yes, yes. And when your brain is interrupted as a child, the way you grow up and how you gather yourself to continue growing is not how it's going to be as you were. It's
Yeah.
not going to be as you were.
So that poem, was that the first encounter of molestation you experienced that you can
Yes,
recall? Okay.
it is. It completely is. That's what jump started it all. And there's a poem also in this first book that references a poem similar to that as well.
Yeah. Because in this book, one of the poems that really spoke to me, well, a lot of them, but um, it was very short, sweet, but it was powerful,
Mm.
and it was called Him.
Oh, yeah. What page is that?
That's on page 15. And I was like, oh my goodness. I mean,
You
just
know,
powerful. Wow.
I know that I know how much I have grown since even I started this book and the second one.
Hmm.
I've grown so much through the tears, the pain, the hurt, uh, the anger.
Yeah.
And at this point in my life, I forgive my father. I have forgiven him over and over and over again because it's just for me. It's to help me live and move
Yeah.
forward and just to get to the new levels and next levels of where I'm going to be. So yeah, when I wrote this poem in the first book, him, it says, Dad, Father, Predator, you, Molester, Monster, you, your daughter. I
See, I
think
should
all
have
we
brought
would,
some tissue. I mean,
uh,
that is so powerful. I mean, it's just powerful. When, like I said, I was reading it and I think I had to breathe. I had to put the book down because every, that's just how connected to what you were saying I got. Him,
mm,
father, or dad, father. And then it was like building up. Like, this is what I thought of you, and this is what you became, you,
yeah,
and this is who I am. That's exactly how I took that. So, whoo.
you know,
Mm,
I really never, my father died a few years after my sister died in 2003.
mm,
Um, and he died, I think, a year or two after her. But just hearing you and reading that again, I really never, not even really never, I never mourned my father
mm,
because I just never
mm.
mourned him. And I have cousins who I have a cousin that I love so much. Her father died and she mourns him, and I never experienced that. I love my father though. You know, I forgive him so I can move forward. But you're making me choke up on that one.
I again, the words, and I recently lost my dad, so I've not been molested, like, because like this is just, I'm just picturing, like you said, this distorted picture of this Raggedy Ann doll.
Mm-hmm.
It's so appropriate for what happened, the
Mm-hmm.
innocence that became distorted that you make reference to in this book of poetry,
Mm-hmm.
that you're not the only one, but
No.
maybe somebody else, just like Nikki Giovani wrote, because that's my girl, right?
Love her.
But
Much
she
respect for
wrote,
her.
exactly, every young woman should have a copy. And I don't think it's limited to young women. I think
Neither do I.
anybody who's experienced molestation, and whether they've come to terms with it or not,
Mm-hmm.
I think this is sort of like the healing part of it, because you do need to experience what they say, no pain, no gain. You got to experience
Mm-hmm.
that pain before you get beyond it. So
It
let's,
has healed me. I know that for sure. It has truly healed me, and I want it to help and heal others. It's dedicated to my sister, my older sister. May she rest in peace. And together, our quest is to heal those who have been tampered with, fondled, molested, can't seem to get the thought or vision or memories out of their thinking. There is life after molestation.
yeah,
Happiness and
absolutely.
healing.
And even to that, for you to go on to pursue a degree in psychology,
Oh my.
how full circle is that?
Yes.
Where you
Oh,
can process all of that and help others, because you may see some signs.
the pieces came together for me
Yeah.
while I was
Yeah.
getting that degree, writing those papers, being vulnerable, sharing my story with people that I did not know.
Yeah.
But it wasn't for me. It was for me, but it was for people to see and witness. But it was also for me to just get to the next levels that I'm used to. I'm sick of it now. I'm sick of talking
Yeah.
about molestation. Now, I mean, in the way that it comes to torture you and to try to
Yeah.
control you.
Yeah.
I love talking about it so we can get to those new beginnings of
Yeah.
where this is supposed to take us.
Yeah.
You know, no one should tamper with their child. Would never tamper with my child. Never, never harm her. But
Yeah.
our parents, speaking of my mother, she had to do what she had to do. I love her. She was young herself, She had to
Yeah.
do what she had to do. I have forgiven, and that is why I'm here with you tonight, Kishen. Timing, God's preparation, purpose, fulfillment in my life, it's just been long overdue. It's just time to talk about this and get this out here and
Yeah.
stop pushing molestation under that rug.
And I think I agree with that. I know I agree with that. In terms of, were there some signs that tied back, what manifested in your adulthood that tied back to that the molestation, that you knew was a hindrance for you to grow in, whether it was your relationship with your husband, or even with bringing your daughter, being prepared for her to enter the world? What were some of those manifestations?
Well, my life, my whole entire life, I've always had a conversation with God on why do you keep having me point the finger inward for myself to become a better person, individual, and to understand why I was so angry, why I felt so stuck, or why I felt like I was unable to complete a project. Because my mind, I always reference it as NASCAR. it just, my mind was just constantly racing, racing,
Wow.
racing. Always constantly thinking about molestation, a smell, anything triggered by a
Mm,
sound, someone's name, my family members talking about my father. Everything would trigger me. And, I would keep things silent within myself because who do you talk to? I would act out and be violent and, or say 110 cuss words, but it just, everything, I wouldn't change anything about my life. It all helped. And so the molestation memory never went away all the way through childhood, teen years, adulthood. Um, but it was at some point, especially after this first book was out, enough was enough. I was just sick and tired
yeah.
of the crying, sick and tired of forgiving, sick and tired of praying about it. But still encouraged to do so because I knew that there was much more to this life than remembering molestation.
Yeah. Yeah. So this book was the start, and
Yes.
the second book
Mm-hmm.
is what part of your life? So would you say that this is the beginning of the healing process, the complete healing process, and the new book is the what?
Yes, that the first book is the beginning. It's
Okay.
it's the meat of what has happened, and without giving all the details.
Right.
Um, but this second book, which I'm so excited about, I'm going to go ahead and share the title with you. It's a poetry letter to the little girl within.
Mm.
Poetry letter to the little girl within, because sometimes she can be forgotten.
Yeah.
It was, I was doing. I think I have a poem in here too. I was doing some basement cleaning a couple years ago, or maybe even last year, and came across an old picture of myself in the back seat of the car. I must have been, I don't know, high school maybe, maybe ninth or 10th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And I could just see the sadness in my eyes in that picture.
Mm.
And I just began to weep and weep and weep. And it was good because I started thinking about the child, the young girl who was just forgotten. It's like she was inside of me, just screaming, screaming my name, waiting for me to reach down and just pick her up and help her. And I just knew then that it was time for another book,
Nice. So
and so that's what I've been doing.
when do you anticipate this book being ready and published?
Well, I can't give you dates, Kishen. I can't
I'm
give you
like,
a time
ooh.
frame.
Are
I can't
you
give you a time frame, but I'm in the final editing stages right now. Let's
okay?
say that. I sent
Okay.
you some over the week,
Yes.
some
Yes.
exclusive poems, like I told you.
I feel
But I'm in the
blessed.
final editing, and I'm just debating: do I want to add a few more pages? Blah blah blah.
It's like there's so much, it's so big that you can only share so much information. But then,
That is
like
true.
you're doing now, you start another project that will be another element of
Mhm.
that. So people may be interested in this
Mhm.
book.
Yes.
How would somebody get a copy of this book of, and I call it therapeutic poetry?
Yes. That's what
How
I
could
plan to do with my degree too, some therapeutic poetry. I want to
nice.
have some sessions or some groups just to write it out, because it helped me. It was a lifesaver for me.
Yeah.
So, I think I told you over the week that I've been master peeing it, selling this book out of my trunk.
Where your trunk gonna be located? Where your pop-up trunk gonna be located?
So people have been contacting me via phone or text or email or Facebook asking for a book, and then I'll just mail it off to them.
Okay.
So that's how we
Because
can do it for now, because it's not in Amazon or Shoever's or anywhere like that yet.
let me if who do you share this book with? Is it college students, high school students? I mean, I don't know if it would be appropriate for
Hmm.
elementary. I don't know.
And
But
isn't that funny to hear you say that it's not appropriate for elementary students? But
right,
we see all these outrageous videos. We see all these
exactly.
outlandish A, B, C, and D.
Right.
And childhood, you're so many percentage. The percentage is pretty large for students who have been and kids who have been molested in their childhood years.
Mhm.
So I do understand that it's not appropriate for them, but it would just have to be regulated by the parent or the adult sibling or the guardian.
But I wonder, I mean, seriously, is it inappropriate for that age? Because that is the exact age where it happens.
I
And
know.
if this if nobody talks about it, how do
Mm.
you address it? How do you catch it at that young age to stop it, to get them
You,
help, to remove? I don't know.
we just have to keep it real. We have to keep it real with our kids.
Yeah.
Um, I told you this book came out in 2015. My daughter was born 2011. So she was hitting the pavement with me, going to stores, businesses,
Mm,
while I was trying to get donations to get this book out more and to give the book away to people who wanted to help and be familiar and aware of what's going on out there. People know about molestation. People are very aware, but it's just hidden and it's sunken because it's too painful to discuss.
yeah.
It's out there. People are aware. That's why I have. Do you hear my email dinging? Can you hear that?
I think I heard it
Okay.
once.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry if you're
You
hearing that.
okay?
Sorry for that interruption.
Look,
Um, but I have deemed my own self the ambassador of molestation because
ooh,
I want to get it out there. I want to constantly remind people and I want to clear it up. Just yesterday, I heard of some kids being molested and
mhm.
by their parents. No, no, it has to stop. We
Yeah.
have to stop molestation.
You have to have the conversation. And I was thinking about it and I don't know why I went to that point because Dr. Joy DeGruy wrote a book about post
Hmm.
traumatic stress from
Yes.
slavery.
Oh, yeah.
So if you think about
Ongoing.
during times of slavery, how it was commonplace for
Mm.
inbreeding and that thought process. So in my mind, I'm wondering, is that connected? Is there a connectedness to what's happening, especially when it's relatives or blood, to that which was sort of that seed was planted back then, hundreds of years ago? I just wonder, and I don't have the answer, but I wonder.
I don't have the answer either, but I do know that trauma, PTSD, any form of trauma is long lasting.
Yeah.
It's long lasting. And it is up to the individual to confront it, understand it, cry over it for
Hmm.
however long you need to. Thus, the whole 10 plus years it took me to get this first book out. But we have to conquer it so we can be in a better place for ourselves and
Yeah.
then for those who we love.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned. That's what has helped me.
Yeah. And I agree with that because if you don't talk about it, that pain can come out with
Oh,
in health conditions,
yes.
just the way we, like you mentioned about the anger and,
Mhm.
short temperedness, whatever it
Oh,
is
yeah.
that will trigger those manifestations of that event that happened or those events, that trauma that you were exposed to as a child.
Yeah.
Um, so you know what? Let's go to some comments that people are making and
Oh,
have made. Yeah, I know you
yes.
don't see it and I can't
I
figure it out
don't.
yet.
That's
Um,
okay.
but Dukem is watching.
Hi,
Um,
Duke. Love him.
and he said Survivor.
Yeah.
And we were talking about I'm not sure which situation. I saw him make the comment, but I didn't read it. But he says, I feel the same way about talking about it. Oh, that's when you were like, I was just tired of talking about it. And he said, I feel the same way about talking about it because it takes you to that place where it happened.
Time for
And he
healing.
said,
Time for healing.
exactly. It is time for healing.
And walking in it.
That's that empowerment. You got to be empowered, knowing that you have power over this. Now that you just have power over it, and you just have to walk in it and keep your head up and know that, yeah, you don't have me anymore.
Not anymore.
He made a comment. Deanna L. Friend is actually responsible for me publicly being able to speak on my experience. Thank you. And I remember when he shared his story, he said, and that's where he gave me the book. He gave me multiple books, but I gave them away. But I said, I need to keep one because I knew we were going to connect at some point to talk about your story. And you encouraged him. He encouraged somebody. You're reaching a whole new audience now, encouraging somebody else to talk about it. Talk about what happened to them as a child, the innocence that was taken from you. And again, there was another poem in here. It's called Would You, where is it? And I almost tagged it so I can respond it, but it was something about, would you do something? Would you? I'll find it. But anyways, so when I read that, oh, here it is. You wouldn't know.
What page?
That's on page 9.
Okay.
And you wouldn't know reminded me of the innocence of just driving. And I used this analogy a few episodes ago about driving, minding your business, but you see a house. What's on the other side of that door? You don't really know until you open it and you explore it. That's how you find out. So that when I read that, I'm like, how many people do we walk past every day? They're experiencing something that is either right now or it stemmed from a situation in their childhood and they don't know quite how to deal with it.
So, yes. Are you talking so deep right now? Or have we just been talking deep?
No, your book of poetry is so deep because it's so real. And people, again, they don't talk about it. So this, I think, for somebody, we have to take things in steps. We have to take them as we can deal with them, because otherwise it could there could be a backlash and it could do more damage than good. But this
second
might be
second.
Exactly.
I have to live second by second.
This book of poetry, the one that you're writing now or editing and finalizing, could be the step for somebody else to take to get them okay with hearing the story and connect with those stories and then begin their healing process.
Yes, because that's ultimately what I want for anyone who has been molested and suffering that trauma. Healing. You got to start with yourself. You have to do the hard work. It is very hard. It's hard for me some days too. I know that I'm healed from it, but the memory is, it's going to go right back there. My memory always goes back to molestation, but now I can control it, Amen. And you're right. You wouldn't know, that was another poem that I wrote as just triggered going through my regular day and something familiar just popped up. And that's what I wrote. You wouldn't know. You mind if I read it?
No, absolutely.
You wouldn't know. Do you know what I am going through? Do you understand the terror that plays in my mind? Can you feel the screams that scratch through the surface of my skin as you grope me, as you take my innocence and ignore the tears falling to the ground? Have you thought about my heart 2 beats away from an attack on my life, which is in need of resurrection, reconstruction? No, you would not know, since you are the one causing the pain. Do you know what I am going through?
I don't know why I ain't grabbed me no tissue. Because that spoke to me, because we go through our daily activities not knowing. If it hadn't been shared with me that Dukem had gotten to the point where he was able to talk through you, I wouldn't have known. I mean, that picture with us at Circle City Classic
Yes, so
back
many
in the
years
day,
ago. Yeah,
right? Who knew?
I
Who
know.
knew? Nobody. I mean, you just don't know what people have experienced in their lives. But like you have done and like you are doing, and you said you're going to be the ambassador
Yes, I
for,
am. I am.
and
I've deemed
so
myself that.
let's talk. So what are your plans? How do you go about and spread the word and help others through your
Mhm.
ambassador role that will help others? How do you do that?
Well, as you know, I have a long-term job that I've been at for a very long time. And I work with some amazing kids, some amazing students that have to trusted me with their stories. And
Mm,
I hold those. Molestation is tough. It will snatch the voice right out of someone's
mm,
soul. I have a girl who she is a selective mute. Love her, love her, love her. But
mm,
trauma can do something to you.
yeah.
So I just get the word out. I listen. Listen to those who want to come and share the story with me. Um, there are a lot of places that I still do go and talk to people about my poetry. People who are suffering from molestation, some kind of way they find their way to me. And we can talk about it. We cry together. We be still and quiet together. And, we just try to move on. And like this tonight with you, it's all about timing. I don't know when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. I just finished school and I'm ready for the next step. I'm ready for the next step. And I believe that it can come through writing. Oh, this poem I wrote here in my new book is called Right to Live.
Mm,
Right to Live. I have just been moving in silence, writing out my words caused by struggle and pain from past memories of childhood, a kind of suffering unwished on anyone, especially for the little girl bursting within me. But now the tables have turned. Confidence embeds this body, strength moves me. No longer am I afraid of those moments. I am just here to talk about it, to let the world know that there is life after these unwanted fingerprints, the ones I cannot seem to wash away, staying to interrupt my progress, your progress of success, your progress of a healed mind. I say no more. No longer will I remain confused. No longer will I remain depressed, so sick of feeling uncertain. Now I know. Backup has arrived for the little girl within me. She is ready. She is free. She is whole and complete. Molestation, you came, you saw, and almost conquered me. But I choose to live.
woo! I see you. I see you ministering to people, sharing through poetry to draw them in, because people connect in different ways. This is definitely a powerful way to connect with people. Um, Whatever I can do to help, I
Thank you.
will. I mean, this is so necessary, because even people that are in their 50s and 60s, and some people go to their grave
Yes.
with this
Yes.
trauma that they live with. It torments them. It comes out. You wonder why they always angry? Who they mad at? And you never know that they grew up with this event that happened to them, and it's never been processed through to get rid of it.
Yes.
And I did not anticipate this being so powerful. And I know I sort of played on the words emotional, drawn in, and I am drawn into that because I think of the innocence of people, young girls and boys who lose that innocence through molestation.
And what are they supposed to do? How are they supposed to get the anger out? Who's there to listen to them fully? Are they being believed?
Yeah.
Someone once asked me,
Wow.
what took you so long to,
and when you talked about
get it out?
Look, it's a process. It's a process. So you can't expect, well, yeah, I'm going to go tell somebody, because how many times have kids, I've heard of stories of young kids telling their mother or their father or telling somebody and they weren't believed. Or as we all know, what stays in this house? Oh, it stays in this house.
Yes.
And the healing can't even begin to take place because you bet not tell nobody. Or the threats, well, if you tell anybody, I'm going to kill this person, that person, and that fear.
That happens.
Or don't tell nobody, or I'll give you some candy, or I'll give you some money. The different ways of manipulating the silence.
Very true. Yeah, my plans to lead this ambassador way of living with this molestation. My dreams are to get a building, do my poetry there, have others come in, write it out, talk it out, because poetry saved me. Poetry helped me live. It helped me live, and things that we didn't talk about, suicide and attempted suicide, and, people who suffer from traumas, they will try to do anything to ease themselves of pain.
Wow. Yeah, you're right.
I just want to help.
Ooh, there's so much to this. There's so much. And there's another young lady who will be sharing her story.
Nice.
And she said that she told somebody and nothing happened. That's when I guess the hopelessness comes into play when, well, I did what I was supposed to do, but I wasn't believed, or nobody cared. Nobody did anything.
Now we have self-confidence issues, self-esteem issues, trust issues, even using this mouthpiece to speak. I'm going to read this one. Mouthpiece.
Okay.
Speak words. The words that cause you to stop speaking the moment he invaded your body parts. The day he touched me, my voice went away. I became someone else in order not to feel it, believe it, or hate him. My father, it is as if my words were snatched away right along with the person I was before he interfered. But now it is time to speak up for me, myself, and her, the shattered little girl who experienced it. It is over now, and the words will form as the writer I am, the poet I have become, and the mouthpiece given to tell my story.
Yeah. This is going to be my tissue, I guess. Because that, I am so glad that you're sharing so that people can hear, so that people can know, so that people can connect, so that it doesn't stay bottled up and it doesn't manifest as thoughts of suicide, thoughts of, wanting to end it off. Nobody hears me. Well, somebody's going to listen. I think about I can't even count the number of times I got reject letters for different things. I'm trying to do this and I'm trying to do that. I need this job. But nobody's listening. Nobody. Hello. Do you not see me?
Right.
That is the voice, the mouthpiece for somebody else to come out of that. Excuse me. Wow. Somebody wants to know, how do I get your book?
Okay, yes. Please just maybe
they want to inbox
Messenger.
Me.
Okay,
yeah,
inbox
Messenger.
You or Messenger me. I just got the app again last week. So yes. If they want to contact me through Facebook, and we can set up something and I will get it mailed to them. I also have Cash App, so we can work something out that way too.
And it's Deannia L. Friend on Facebook.
Yes, it is.
So that's how you reach out to her to get a copy of the book.
Yeah.
We can go on and on, because with your knowledge, expertise in psychology, as well as your own personal experience, there are so many different tentacles to this subject. And we might have to do another part, simply because
I'd be honored. Thank you.
I'm telling you, I mean, because we didn't talk about thoughts of suicide. We didn't talk about that impact of being silenced, and how people are yelling and screaming, but nobody hears them because
nobody hears or sees.
Exactly. You don't know.
But I want to emphasize healing.
Yeah.
There is healing after such a traumatic event, and memories that play that are pressed on replay in our mind, our thinking. There's healing after this. I know it because I'm living it. There, listen, ask anyone who knows me. They know I'm a crier. And I've been freed from all those tears.
Wow.
I have been free. Now I can cry happy tears now.
Amen. We're gonna cry happy tears together, because it's a process, and we're gonna cry for somebody else. And
and help those who need help.
Yeah. That's
what I want to do.
I'm telling you, when I 2 years ago, whenever it was, decided to have some type of means for people to communicate, because people would hear my story. I went through a very very difficult divorce. I ended up on public assistance on more than one occasion. I lost a gazillion jobs. Okay, 7. And just my home went into foreclosure. I got vehicles repossessed. I mean, I was homeless. So I tell the story, and people are like, why don't you tell the story? I'm like, but it's not really for me to tell the story. But like you said, it's for me, but it's not. It's for somebody else. And so that's what this podcast, the videos are, to share, so somebody else can hear, so somebody else can get unstuck, so somebody else can grow. And I say this jokingly, but I'm very serious when I say my name is Kishen and I am the CEO of me. Everybody is the CEO of themselves.
I love it.
You are absolutely commissioned to your health, to your well-being, to your mental health, and to any other area. I'm looking for some tissue for real. For any other area, to get healed. And people won't, and they don't. And you are the chief executive officer of your finances, of your health, everything. So
Mm-hmm.
you are in a space where people are listening who have gone through that, and your story is going to bless somebody. So Revelations 12, 11 and 12, 12 and 11, I always get them mixed up, where it says we overcome him by the blood of the lamb and the words of our testimony. We get free by talking about what we've gone through and pushing through that. Like you said, the pain, you got to push through that pain to get to the healing.
Oh, yeah. And it's going to
Otherwise,
hurt. You're going to cry.
Yeah.
You're going to revisit that space over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But
So
it's up to you to control it.
You've blessed me, and clearly you've blessed others. And Peggy just said, this is so necessary. And it is. Real talk. I'm telling you, people need to get free. But if you don't talk about it, that thing holds you. It has your voice. It has you. Because if you don't communicate, if you don't let it go, you don't know the freedom and the liberty and just the purpose.
Or the self-love.
Self-care, self-love.
Or the self-love.
Yeah.
You know, somebody who's been molested, you feel dirty, you feel nasty. How can you love yourself? It takes time. Every reflection, every mirror, you have to look in there and say, I love you. And cry about it.
Yeah. And I don't think
for others.
We don't do that. We don't look. It's sort of like looking in the mirror is shameful. I see you and what happened to you. But when you start speaking to yourself and say, you are beautiful. I love you. You are fearfully and wonderfully made in God's image. You have a purpose, and great things are going to come from you. If you don't start declaring those things over you, you're going to stay in that place of bondage. Because that's what it is. You're bound to that situation.
Yeah. Because you don't know how to release it or get away from it. You know, you can't, and we're so hard on ourselves. How many times have I been so hard on myself?
Yeah.
So do you mind if I'm just going to pull this poem right here. It's called Unable to Stay Down. Molested at a young age. The memories have lasted a lifetime. Struggles persist, but still I rise. I rise to the occasion because I have missed out on so many. I rise above the pain because the thoughts hurt too much. I rise above in order to reach down to help the little girl who has shed so many tears because her way remains unanswered. And her why remains unanswered. Why did my father do this to me? I rise out of the ashes because purity looks refined and smells like breakfast on a Saturday morning. Still, I rise. Every time the face of molestation tries to steal my peace, I stand tall and use this mouthpiece, aiming at all the obstacles that try to stop me, assured and confident, affirmed by self, and still rising.
Yeah, that's that empowering part of it, rising above it. But you mentioned before, and I hear it in that poem, those triggers, what happened, what was going on in those moments. So when is coming out? When is it
Give me
coming
a few
out?
months. Give me a few months. I'm such a stickler on myself. I have to make sure things are right and proper. But this is the final editing stage. So after I think I have like maybe 15 more pages to edit, and then I'll send them back to my editor, who is my husband.
Okay, teamwork.
He's a graphic designer and a painter. So I'm so thankful for him.
Yes.
So I'm gonna say I'm gonna aim for a month or two, maybe.
Okay,
sooner.
by the summer.
Yeah, maybe by the summer. Hopefully sooner.
Well, then this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to reconnect.
Okay.
and maybe we can do some type of, feature or platform for you to share, and we really talk about what your poetry, both books, but more importantly, well, I won't say more importantly, but as importantly, the healing part of it with that book.
Yes.
So we're going to reconnect, reconvene.
Thank you.
But I do want to thank you for sharing your story. And clearly you've missed some of the comments, but you'll get a chance to go back and see. And yep, Dukem, those triggers. You have those triggers. But let's go ahead.
I want to thank you, Kishen. Like you said earlier, we have known each other for a mighty long time. A mighty long time. And I've seen you develop. I've seen you grow. I've seen you just be beautiful. And I appreciate you. Even when you didn't know, I saw you. And I appreciate you. And I thank Dukem too, because Dukem, you don't even know how many times he was like, I'm going to talk to Keisha. I was like, Dukem, take these 10 books.
They gone, except for one.
Tell her to have me on her show. But
wow.
I thank you. And I'm thankful to God because I couldn't be here without him. I tried to deny him, but I'm here. I'm back. I'm ready.
Amen. Amen. Well, again, for those of you who missed this broadcast will be up for a little bit. Then I'm going to put it on the podcast, Stories with Kishen, on SoundCloud, and I'm thinking about Anchor too, so it may be 2 different platforms, as well as the YouTube channel, Stories with Kishen. So again, Deannia L. Friend, thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you so much for giving us a sneak peek of the artistry that you're working on that we'll get a chance to read and hear at a later date. So do you have any final words, any words of wisdom that you want to share?
I do. I just want to tell myself and others to continue to trust the process. Trust what God is doing for you. The tears, the screams, the anger, the outbursts, the quiet moments. Pick up a pencil and just write it out if you have to. Doodle it out, sketch it out, but just be in your emotions. If you have to cry, cry. Do it. Embrace those emotions and just continue to grow. There is healing after molestation.
Amen. Amen. Well, there you have it. And if you're just tuning in, you got to catch the broadcast later. Again, my name is Kishen, and I am the CEO of Me. You've been listening to Stories with Kishen. Ordinary people. Yes, you are. Ordinary people with extraordinary lives. And Deannia L. Friend just shared her extraordinary life. So tune in next week. We're going to have more. 7:00. And if it's a little bit delayed, just know that we're working out the kinks with any technicalities. But again, thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.